I thought I had it all. A man who loved me endlessly, who treated me like a queen and made life feel easy. But every time he touched me, I felt someone else's name echo in my heart. Sometimes, the perfect man isn't the one your soul chooses. And sometimes, love doesn't come with logic. It comes with longing. This is the story of how I had to choose between the man who gave me the world and the one who ruined it. The rain in Boston hadn't stopped in 2 days. It wasn't a storm, just a steady, relentless drizzle that made the streets glisten and the mood of the city sag. Ethan Carter pulled his coat tighter as he crossed Tremont Street, coffee in one hand, phone in the other. Notifications pinged, but he ignored them. Nothing mattered until he finished the article he'd been procrastinating for a week. He ducked into a quiet alley beside his favorite bookstore, Pine and Paper. It was his shortcut to get to the subway, a trick he'd used for years. But today, something was different. A man stood at the far end of the alley, not blocking the way, just standing. He wore a long black coat, dry despite the rain, and a wide-brimmed hat that cast a shadow over his face. He didn't move, didn't flinch, just waited. Ethan slowed. "Hey," Ethan called, more out of caution than curiosity. "You okay?" The man raised his head. His eyes were clear and blue, strangely bright in the gray light. "You're Ethan Carter." Ethan paused. "Do I know you?" "No, but I know you." Ethan laughed nervously. "Okay, that's a little creepy. I know what's going to happen to you," the man said calmly. "Your life is about to change. And you have 3 choices. Only one will save you." Ethan's smile faded. "What are you talking about?" The man took a step forward. "Tomorrow at 9:42 a.m., your phone will ring. A woman will cry your name. If you answer, someone will die." Ethan blinked. "I don't know what game you're playing, but if you ignore the call, someone else will suffer. But if you destroy the phone before the call comes in, then you might live." The man took a card from his coat and handed it to Ethan. It was blank except for one line. "Mr. Thorne, truth is never free." When Ethan looked up, the man was gone. Ethan stormed into his apartment, threw his coat over the chair, and tossed the card onto the table like it was cursed. Olivia Reed, his roommate and best friend since college, was grading papers on the couch. "You look like someone slapped you with a ghost," she said, peering over her glasses. "Funny you say that," Ethan muttered, recounting the entire alley encounter. When he finished, Olivia snorted. "That's classic alley psychic behavior. Guy's probably a grifter. He knew my name, Liv, and he knew something's going to happen tomorrow." She tilted her head. "You're a journalist, Ethan. People recognize you. And vague predictions are a con man's bread and butter. Then why did it feel real? Because you've been binging too many true crime podcasts again." He couldn't argue with that. The next morning was uneventful. Ethan told himself it had been a prank, a weird encounter, a story for his blog if nothing else. He forgot about it until 9:41 a.m. He was in the kitchen pouring cereal when his phone, lying innocently on the table, lit up. 9:42 a.m. It rang. The screen read, "Unknown number." Ethan froze. Then came the voice, high-pitched, panicked, and definitely female. "Ethan. Ethan, help me. Please." His hand trembled as it hovered over the answer icon. Was this a joke? Some friend playing along? He didn't answer. The call ended. Ethan stared at the phone like it might explode. His breath was shallow. 5 minutes later, another call came in. This time, it was Olivia. "Turn on the news," she said, her voice tight. The local channel was reporting a tragic accident. A commuter train had derailed. 2 cars had fallen from the tracks, injuring dozens. The train had been scheduled to depart at 9:45, Ethan's usual train. He dropped the remote. Later that evening, Ethan sat on his bed, the blank card in his hand. He flipped it over for the 100th time. Nothing changed. No hidden ink, no strange markings. But the message was burned into his mind. Truth is never free. The doorbell rang. He opened it to find a tall man in a gray suit holding a badge. "Mr. Carter? I'm Detective Marcus Hale. I'd like to ask you a few questions." Ethan blinked. "What's this about? You weren't on your usual train this morning, but your phone number came up on a call log we're reviewing. Someone from that train tried to call you before the crash." Ethan hesitated. "I didn't recognize the number. Do you mind if we look into it further?" "No, go ahead." As Hale took down some notes, Ethan couldn't help but wonder, was this real? Or had he stepped into something far darker than he could have imagined? That night, Ethan returned to the alley. The rain had stopped. Mr. Thorne was already there, like he'd never left. "You didn't answer," the old man said. "No," Ethan replied. "Was that the right choice? You changed one death for another. But your story isn't over. Why are you doing this?" "Who are you?" Mr. Thorne's eyes narrowed. "I am the echo of futures denied. You're not the only one I've warned, Ethan. But you might be the only one who listens. And if I stop listening, then the end will come, just as it has for the others." Thorne handed him a new card. This one had a single sentence: "Do not trust the woman in green." And then, once again, he vanished into the shadows. The card felt heavier this time, as though the ink itself carried weight. "Do not trust the woman in green." Ethan tucked it into his wallet and walked out of the alley, his heart pounding. Everything was unraveling faster than he could process. Who was Mr. Thorne? How did he know these things? Why him? Back at the apartment, Olivia was seated on the windowsill, laptop open, earbuds in. She glanced up as he entered. "Detective Hale called. He said to tell you the phone number from that morning belongs to a missing woman. Name's Elena Brooks. She was on that train." Ethan froze. "Missing?" Olivia nodded. "The crash caused a power outage in the surveillance systems. They're still identifying people. Her phone was found on the track. No sign of her body." The voice on the call, "Ethan, help me," suddenly echoed in his ears. What had he ignored? He sat down, pulled out the new card, and handed it to Olivia. She read it and arched an eyebrow. "Well, at least he's getting more specific. I don't know what to think anymore," Ethan muttered. "He's playing some kind of game. Or I'm losing my mind." That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. Shadows twitched at the edge of his sight. He dozed off sometime after 3 a.m., but woke up gasping. He'd had a dream, no, a vision. He was standing in a darkened room filled with clocks. They ticked at different paces. One by one, they stopped. In the center stood a woman in a green dress. She had long black hair and piercing gray eyes. She was crying. Then she smiled and whispered, "You chose wrong." Ethan jerked upright. Sweat soaked his shirt. His phone buzzed. 4:17 a.m. A text from an unknown number. "You have 72 hours. Tick-tock. By mid-morning, Ethan decided to get out of the apartment. He needed clarity, air, caffeine, anything to keep his head straight. Olivia was at work, and he wanted answers. He stopped at a corner cafe near Boston Common. It was quiet inside, the kind of place where tired baristas wore headphones and regulars stared into their coffee like it might answer life's mysteries. He ordered a black coffee and turned to find a seat and stopped. A woman in a green coat was sitting at the back of the cafe. She had long black hair. Her eyes, gray like smoke, met his. His skin went cold. She tilted her head, as if amused, and motioned for him to come over. Ethan hesitated. Could this be her? He sat down cautiously. "Ethan Carter," she said smoothly. Her voice was calm, layered with a faint accent he couldn't place. "I was hoping to run into you. Do I know you?" he asked, his throat dry. "Not yet. But I know you." Same words Mr. Thorne had used. Ethan's stomach twisted. "I'm Clara Voss," she continued. "And I need your help." "With what?" Clara leaned in. "There are forces watching you. And they don't like what Thorne is doing." Ethan narrowed his eyes. "You know Thorne?" "I know of him. He meddles with timelines. Pulls threads where he shouldn't. You weren't supposed to survive that train crash, Ethan." He stood. "This is a joke." "No joke," Clara said, her tone hardening. "You're already in the middle of it, whether you want to be or not." Ethan turned to leave. Clara whispered something that made him freeze. "Elena Brooks is still alive. But if you want to find her, you'll have to betray someone." He turned back, but she was gone. Detective Marcus Hale showed up at Ethan's apartment that afternoon, unannounced and clearly troubled. "We found Elena's jacket and ID under a maintenance panel near the tracks," he said, sitting across from Ethan. "The strange thing is, the access panel wasn't supposed to be open, and there were fresh footprints leading away from it. Someone might have helped her escape." Ethan felt a chill. "You think someone took her? Or she ran?" But we don't know why. Ethan debated telling Hale about the call, about Clara Voss, about Mr. Thorne. Instead, he asked, what happens if she doesn't turn up? Hale leaned forward. If she's alive, she's a witness. And if someone knew about that crash beforehand, like you, it opens up a whole other line of investigation. Ethan swallowed. I didn't know. Someone told me, yes, but I didn't believe them. Then maybe you should start listening. When Hale left, Ethan paced his living room restlessly. He glanced at his phone, then at the blank card on the table. And then his eyes fell on the bookshelf. One of the books had a sticky note sticking out that wasn't there before. He pulled it out. The note read, "Follow the ticking." Confused, Ethan picked up the book and found a small wooden box behind it. It was old, carved with strange symbols, and had a tiny lock. He opened it with the smallest key on his keychain, and inside was a pocket watch. It ticked, but backward. Inside the lid was an inscription. Every minute counts. Reset the lie. As Ethan held it, the ticking stopped. And then, as if time itself hiccuped, the room around him changed. The clock on the wall reversed by 5 minutes. The kettle rewound to half full. His phone's timestamp flashed back 5 minutes. What the? He whispered. He traveled back. Just 5 minutes. But it was real. And now he had something far more dangerous than knowledge of the future. He had the ability to change time. That night, Olivia returned home late and found Ethan standing in the middle of the living room with the watch. He explained everything. Olivia listened, skeptical at first, but when he proved the watch by rewinding 5 minutes in front of her, her face went pale. Ethan, this is dangerous. You don't know how it works. I need to find Elena. Clara said she's alive. Clara? Who's Clara? A woman in green. Olivia stepped back. You met her? He nodded. Today. In a cafe. Olivia's voice trembled. Ethan, that was a warning. Thorne told you not to trust her. Ethan's blood ran cold. He'd forgotten. The card. The dream. The woman in green. And he had trusted her. Ethan stood in the alley again that night. Mr. Thorne appeared from the mist like a ghost. I warned you, he said calmly. She told me Elena's alive. She is. But Clara wants her for herself. She needs Elena to break a loop. What loop? Thorne didn't answer. He handed Ethan a new card. At midnight, you must choose. Save Olivia or find Elena. Ethan's voice broke. Why can't I do both? Because that's not how the story ends. You said I could change the future. Thorne nodded. You can. But every change has a cost. Ethan looked down at the watch in his hand. Tick, tick, tick. Midnight was only hours away. Ethan stood in his living room, the ticking pocket watch tight in his palm. Midnight was closing in like a rising tide, and the choice Mr. Thorne had presented him echoed louder with every second. Save Olivia or find Elena. He stared at the newest card on the table. You cannot save both. Decide who matters more, before time decides for you. He paced, heart hammering. Across the room, Olivia sat at the kitchen counter, unaware of the weight Ethan carried. Liv, he said suddenly. She looked up. Yeah, if something ever happened to me, would you trust someone else to fix it? She frowned. You're being weird again. Just answer. Olivia closed her laptop. No, I'd fix it myself. Ethan nodded slowly. Then promise me something. If I disappear, don't trust the woman in green. Olivia's face darkened. Ethan, did you meet her again? He hesitated. I might. Tonight. At 11 p.m., his phone buzzed. It was another anonymous text. She's on the move. Apartment 42A. Elmhurst Tower. Come alone. Below it, another message appeared. You have 49 minutes to decide. Ethan stared at the address. Elmhurst Tower was across the city, easily a 30-minute drive. Was Elena really there? Or was it a trap? A soft knock came at the door. He jumped, adrenaline spiking. When he opened it, no one was there, just an envelope lying on the doormat. Inside was a photo of Olivia, taken from across the street earlier that day. It was time-stamped. 3:45 p.m. Someone had been watching her. He ran back into the apartment, clutching the photo. Liv, you need to go. What? You're not safe here. Pack a bag. Go to your sister's place in Cambridge. What happened? Just go. Please. Olivia could see the fear in his eyes and didn't argue. By 11:30 p.m., she was gone. Ethan arrived at Elmhurst Tower with 5 minutes to midnight. The building was dark except for a faint red glow coming from the top floor. Apartment 42A. He climbed the stairs faster than the elevator would have taken him. His breath came in sharp bursts, sweat beading on his forehead. At the door of 42A, he hesitated, then knocked. No answer. He turned the handle. Unlocked. He stepped inside slowly. The apartment was empty, cold, and abandoned, the windows boarded up, furniture covered in white sheets. Then he heard it. Faint breathing. From the bedroom. He stepped in and saw her. Elena Brooks. Tied to a chair. Pale. Bruised. Gagged. He rushed to her, tore off the gag. Elena, it's okay, I'm Ethan. I got your call. I'm going to get you out. Her eyes widened. She tried to speak, but her voice was hoarse. Then came the click of a gun behind him. Move away from her, said a cold female voice. He turned. Clara Vass. She stood in the doorway, gun trained on him. Her green coat flared behind her like a flag. I told you, she said. You'd have to betray someone to save her. Ethan raised his hands. You don't have to do this. She knows too much, Clara said, nodding at Elena. If she lives, the loop stays broken. Thorne doesn't want that. I don't care about Thorne. I just want to stop this. Clara smiled sadly. You were never meant to be the hero. You're just the lever. She pulled the trigger. The shot rang out. Ethan flinched, expecting pain. But nothing came. The bullet struck the wall inches from his head. Clara's face flickered, like a broken screen, and then she vanished. Elena screamed. Ethan grabbed the pocket watch. It was glowing. He pressed the center button. The world spun, literally. The air shattered like glass, reality rewinding violently. Everything dissolved. Ethan was in the stairwell again, sweating, heart racing. He held the watch tightly. He'd gone back 10 minutes before midnight. Enough to change things. This time, he didn't go up. He exited the building, crossed the street, and climbed to the adjacent rooftop. From there, he had a view of Clara's car. It was empty. He waited. At 11:59 p.m., Clara emerged from a side entrance with Elena unconscious in her arms. She loaded her into the trunk. Ethan snapped a photo and texted it to Detective Hale. Then he descended. As Clara started the car, Ethan smashed her side window with a brick and pulled the watch again. Everything went white. Ethan stood on the sidewalk at 11:50 p.m., just before Clara had moved Elena. He waited. This time, Detective Hale arrived, responding to Ethan's anonymous tip. Together, they raided apartment 42A. They found Elena tied up alone. No sign of Clara. Are you going to tell me what the hell is going on? Hale demanded. Ethan shook his head. You wouldn't believe me. But he handed Hale the photos. The woman in green, Clara Voss. She's real. Dangerous. And not who she says she is. Hale studied the images. We'll find her. But Ethan wasn't so sure. By morning, the news was everywhere. Missing woman Elena Brooks found alive in abandoned apartment. No suspect had been found. Police were seeking a woman last seen in a green coat. Ethan returned home and collapsed into bed. Olivia returned later that day. I saw the news, she said, eyes wide. You saved her? Ethan didn't answer. He pulled the final card from Mr. Thorne from his wallet. The clock is broken now, but it doesn't stop ticking. That night, Ethan stood in the alley again. Mr. Thorne appeared, slower this time, as if even he had aged. You broke the loop, Thorne said quietly. Time has splintered. I saved both of them. No. You postponed the cost. But everything has a balance. I don't care about your balance. You will, Thorne said, because someone else is going to pay it. Ethan felt his throat tighten. Who? Thorne didn't answer. Instead, he handed Ethan one last card. It was blank, until blood dripped onto it, from nowhere. The card absorbed the drop, and revealed a name. Marcus Hale. Ethan's eyes widened. The detective. The one person still helping him. Ethan sat alone in the dark, the pocket watch ticking softly on the table beside him. The last card haunted him. Marcus Hale. He had used time to save both Olivia and Elena, But now someone else would pay the price. And that someone was the only person still on his side. Was it a warning? Or a sentence? He had to warn Hale now. Ethan dialed Hale's number. No answer. He tried again. Straight to voicemail. Marcus, it's Ethan. Call me the second you get this. Something's wrong. I think you're in danger. He pulled on his coat and sprinted down to the street, jumping into his car and heading toward Hale's apartment. As he drove, Ethan's thoughts spiraled. Why Hale? What did Thorn mean? Was it retaliation or inevitability? He gripped the steering wheel tighter. No, not again. I won't let time claim anyone else. Hale's building stood quiet under the moonlight. Ethan buzzed, but got no response. He found the side entrance unlocked and took the stairs to the 3rd floor. Apartment 3B. He knocked. No answer. He pounded harder. Then the door creaked open. Hale? Ethan called out. No reply. He stepped inside slowly. The apartment was a mess. Papers scattered, coffee still warm, the TV static hissing in the background. But Hale was nowhere to be found. On the desk, Ethan found a single playing card. Face down. He flipped it over. The Queen of Spades. Scrawled across it in ink. One death resets the scales. Ethan rushed into the bathroom to splash water on his face, but stopped cold when he looked into the mirror. Mr. Thorne stood behind him, reflected, but not in the room. Ethan whirled around. Empty. He turned back to the mirror. Thorne was still there, calm as ever. You played with time, Ethan, Thorne said softly. But time doesn't forget or forgive. What happened to Hale? He is where all broken constants go. Suspended. Caught in the loop. Bring him back. I cannot. Only you can. How? Thorne tilted his head. Go to the graveyard. Midnight. Look for the grave that hasn't been dug yet. The mirror cracked. And Thorne was gone. Ethan drove straight to Rosewood Cemetery, an ancient graveyard on the edge of Boston. He arrived just before midnight. The gates stood open, swinging slightly in the wind. The place was unnaturally silent. Fog crept low over the ground. Ethan moved through the rows of graves, flashlight in hand, until he saw it. A rectangular patch of disturbed earth. Fresh, but no headstone. No name. He knelt and touched the dirt. Still warm. Behind him, a voice whispered, "You shouldn't have come here." Ethan turned. Clara Voss stood under the oak tree, dressed now in a long black coat, her expression unreadable. "You're still alive," Ethan muttered. Clara smiled faintly. "Because I'm not tied to one timeline. Where's Hale? He's not dead. Yet. But the scales are tipping." Ethan pulled out the watch. "I can still change things." Clara stepped closer. "Yes. But every reset breaks you a little more. Eventually, you won't remember what's real." She stepped aside, revealing another gravestone nearby. It had Ethan's name on it. Ethan Carter, 1988? The man who tried to cheat time. Ethan staggered back. "What is this?" "Your possible ending," Clara said. "Unless you give me the watch." Ethan raised it. "You want it that badly?" Clara's eyes darkened. "Because it's not yours. Thorne gave it to you, but it belongs to me." "Why?" "Because I built it." Clara knelt and brushed her fingers across the soil. "I was a physicist. Quantum theory. Time displacement. Theoretical loops. My husband died in a car crash 3 years ago. I created the watch to bring him back, but something went wrong," Ethan guessed. Clara nodded. "The watch worked. I rewound time. But only I remembered the original timeline. The world rewrote itself, except for me. What happened to your husband? I brought him back. But in every new loop, he died a different way. Every time I saved him, fate found a new end. I created something that gave me hope and took everything else." Ethan's voice was hollow. "So, you gave it to Thorne?" "No. He stole it." She stood and faced him. "You still have time, Ethan. Use the watch to undo your part. Let Hale take your place. The timeline will seal itself. You're asking me to erase myself?" "No," Clara whispered. "I'm offering you peace." A gust of wind swirled, and Mr. Thorne appeared between them, arms folded. "Ah, Clara," he said. "Still playing goddess." Clara glared at him. "You lied to him. I guided him. Thorn said. As I once guided you. You stole the watch. I saved it from madness. They circled each other like wolves. Ethan shouted, Enough! He held up the pocket watch. Tell me what happens if I destroy it. Both Clara and Thorn froze. Don't, Clara whispered. You'll fracture time permanently, Thorn warned. Everyone caught in a reset, including Olivia, Elena, and Hale, will vanish. Ethan's hand trembled. Then tell me what to do. Thorn approached him slowly. The watch must be passed. Its weight cannot stay with one person forever. It has to move to the next, or be returned. To where? Clara answered, to the loop where it began. Where I lost him. Ethan thought of Olivia's laugh, Elena's eyes, Hale's kindness. He looked at the grave with his name, and then at the sky. It was 12:03 a.m. Time to choose. Ethan stepped forward and handed the watch to Clara. Thorn's eyes widened. No, but it was too late. Clara closed her eyes. The watch glowed red, then blue, then vanished. She faded with it. The grave sealed itself. The air went still. Thorn sighed. Well, he murmured, perhaps the boy did learn. He faded too. Ethan awoke in his bed the next morning. Sunlight streamed through the window. The pocket watch was gone. No cards. No Thorn. No Clara. His phone buzzed. A text from Olivia. Coffee at our usual spot. Then another from Hale. They IDs the kidnapper. Clara Voss. Interpol's involved. We've got a lead in Switzerland. Crazy, huh? Ethan smiled faintly. It was over. Or so he thought. 1 week had passed since Ethan gave the watch to Clara. Everything had returned to normal. Almost. No more cards. No strange visions. No mysterious visitors. Olivia was safe. Elena had been moved to a protected facility under federal watch. Detective Hale was back at his desk, chasing leads on Clara Voss's international crimes. But for Ethan, peace felt unnatural, like calm before a storm. The absence of the watch felt more like a phantom limb than freedom. Every night, he dreamed of ticking. Sometimes faint, sometimes deafening, and always the same phrase whispered in the background. It's not over. It was Thursday afternoon when the first crack appeared. Ethan sat in a small coffee shop downtown, waiting for Olivia. He stirred his espresso absent-mindedly, scrolling through news articles. Then a girl approached his table. Young, maybe 20. Freckles. Auburn hair in a braid. Her eyes were strange, not wide or scared, but old. Tired. She sat across from him without asking. Ethan Carter? He blinked. Yes, can I help you? She nodded slowly. I'm sorry. You don't know me yet. But you will. He tensed. Who are you? She leaned forward. My name is Hannah. I'm your daughter. From a future that no longer exists. Ethan's mouth went dry. That's impossible. Hannah gave a sad smile. So was the watch. So was Thorn. But they happened. You said, a future that no longer exists? She nodded. When you gave the watch to Clara, you reset the branches. In the future I came from, she didn't vanish. She won. Time broke completely. The world collapsed into fixed patterns. People became echoes. I was part of the resistance. You're saying we're in a good version now? Better? Hannah corrected. But not safe. Because someone is still trying to restore that future. Who? Hannah slid a photograph across the table. It was grainy, blurred. A man in a long tan overcoat walking through a crowd, his face barely visible. This is Adrian Vale, she said. He was Clara's assistant in your timeline. But he never vanished. He's trying to rebuild the watch. Ethan shook his head. I don't want to go back. I don't want to be part of this anymore. You don't have a choice, she said quietly. Why not? She reached into her bag and pulled out a familiar object. The pocket watch. Ethan recoiled. I destroyed that. No, Hannah said. You gave it to Clara. She sent it to me before she disappeared. But if you have it, it means the loop is reopening. Time always circles back. That night, Ethan took the watch from Hannah's hands. It was cold, unmarked. The inscription on the back was gone. The button didn't glow. Why now? He asked her. Why give it to me? Hannah looked at him carefully. Because Adrian has created a prototype. He can't finish it without the original. If you keep it, you become his target. What if I destroy it? Then the entire timeline may collapse. Ethan stared at the watch. Then what do I do? She reached into her coat and gave him something else. A key. What's this for? She whispered. You'll need it when you find the door. The next day, Ethan went to the library. An odd compulsion had driven him there. He didn't know why. Inside, he felt himself pulled toward the basement. Rows of old books. Dusty records. Then he saw it. A small iron door set into the back wall, barely noticeable. No handle. Just a keyhole. Ethan hesitated. Then inserted the key Hannah had given him. The lock clicked. The door opened inward to darkness. He stepped inside. The room was circular. Stone walls covered in carvings, like constellations and clocks melted into one another. At the center, a pedestal. On it sat a book, bound in black leather, and marked. Ethan approached and opened it. Blank pages. Until he turned to the center. Then words began to appear. Here lies the ledger of the time-bound. The names of those who altered fate. Below that, a list began. He saw his name. Clara Voss. Hannah Carter. Adrian Vale, Elena Brooks, Marcus Hale, and at the bottom, one new name forming as he watched. Olivia Hammond. Ethan gasped. No, he whispered. She has nothing to do with this. A voice echoed from the walls. Everyone tied to you becomes a piece of the loop. He slammed the book shut. When he looked up, the room had changed. He was no longer alone. A man stood across from him. Adrian Vale, mid-40s. Glasses, long tan coat, cold, precise eyes. I was hoping you'd come here, he said calmly. Ethan stepped back. Your Vale. Yes. And you're holding my missing piece. Ethan gripped the pocket watch. You can't have it. Adrian smiled. Then you'll be hunted. Not just by me, but by time itself. You're a variable now, Ethan. And variables must be erased. He snapped his fingers. The chamber trembled. From the shadows, time shades emerged, humanoid silhouettes with flickering edges, like static in human form. They moved toward Ethan. He bolted back through the door, heart hammering, shades in pursuit. Ethan ran until the world bent. The streets twisted. Time warped around him. Suddenly, he was standing in the alley where he'd first met Thorne. But Thorne wasn't there. Only a small boy. The boy looked up. He was Ethan, 8 years old, confused, frightened. The child spoke. Do I have to become you? Ethan shook his head. No, you can choose differently, but someone has to carry the watch. Ethan stared at the device in his hand, then at his younger self. And for the first time, he realized the truth. He had never escaped the loop. He was the loop. Ethan placed the watch on the ground, stepped back, closed his eyes. When he opened them, he was no longer in the alley. He was back in his apartment, alone. The watch was gone. So was the key. So was the book. His phone buzzed. A text from Olivia. Dinner at 7? From Hale. Clara Voss was spotted in Geneva. We're getting closer. From a number he didn't recognize. Thank you for giving us time. H. The days that followed felt surreal. Ethan moved through life like a man walking through mist, real yet uncertain. Every clock ticking felt louder. Every coincidence felt staged. And deep in his chest, he knew. The loop wasn't just a series of events. It was a choice. And he hadn't made his final one yet. One morning, a package arrived. No return addresses. No postage. Just a wax seal with a strange symbol, 2 interlocking spirals. Inside was a folded letter and an old photograph. The photo showed a group of people standing in front of a clock tower. Ethan recognized them all. Clara, Thorne, Adrian Vale, and one more person, himself, older, gray at the temples, smiling faintly. He read the letter. Ethan, if you're reading this, it means you survived your first loop. And you still have time left. What happens next depends on your answer to one question. Are you willing to become the next watchman? There is no glory in it. No reward. Only responsibility. Someone must protect time. not to control it, but to keep it safe from those who would. Clara failed. Adrian corrupted it. Thorn manipulated it. But you still have a chance. Burn this letter if your answer is no. Otherwise, meet me at the train station clock tower, midnight. H. Ethan reread it twice. Then he looked at the back of the photo, scrawled in fading ink. Every ending is a beginning. Midnight. The train station was nearly empty, the night cold and silent. Ethan stood under the looming clock tower, its hands frozen at 12 o'clock. Then, a flicker. And Thorn stepped out of the shadows, his expression softer than before. Welcome back, Ethan. You're not surprised. Time rarely allows for surprise. But I am pleased. So this is it. No. This is where it begins. Another figure approached from behind Thorn. Hannah. Now older. Confident. Wearing a coat that looked too much like Ethan's used to. I've held the post since you gave me the key, she said. You were the watchman, for one timeline. But they all collapse eventually. Now it's your turn. Thorn stepped forward, holding a new object. A watch. Not the same one. This one glowed softly silver. Sleek. Clean. It won't rewind time, he said. Only observe it. Guide it. No cheating. Ethan took it. It felt right in his hand. Why me? Because, Thorn smiled, you kept choosing others over yourself. And time remembers kindness. As Ethan walked out of the station, the world seemed sharper, like he was finally seeing it fully. He saw a man proposing to his girlfriend on the steps. He saw an old woman quietly singing to herself on a bench. He saw a child drop a coin, only for a stranger to hand it back with a smile. Tiny choices. Tiny changes. Ripples in the river of time. He checked the watch on his wrist. 12:01 a.m. A new minute. A new beginning. Ethan Carter became a quiet man. He kept a small office near the harbor. Sometimes people came to him with strange dreams, odd experiences, or stories of déjà vu. He listened. Sometimes he smiled and said nothing. Other times he offered them an envelope. Inside, a coin. A single phrase. Your time is your own. He never saw Thorn again. But sometimes in his dreams, he heard Clara laughing. Sometimes he heard Adrian cursing. And sometimes he heard Hannah whisper, "Thank you." The pocket watches never ticked. But Ethan didn't need it to. Because he knew now, time wasn't something to change. It was something to protect.